Okay, I'm doing another video today. I wanted to do it a little bit earlier this week, but I just haven't had time. I wanted to start with some ideas that I've had, or some thoughts rather that I've had, generating, or not generating, but having to do with the beginning of the Transformers. We have so many different continuities now, so many different ways that they've that the race began. With all the changes happening, with everybody wanting the G1 to come back, and there was this new Bumblebee movie being a reboot, but some of us still kind of wanting that nuance that we've had with Transformers Prime, or even in some cases the Bayverse movies. I wanted to just kind of try playing around with an idea that I had of how you could possibly blend those ideas together and create one solid continuity that kind of gives everybody a little bit of what they want. Because I am G1 fan. There's some things about G1 that I don't like. There's a lot of things about Transformers Prime that I absolutely loved, and some things that I didn't like. And in that regard, I'd read some comments recently regarding not the Transformers, but the Optimus Prime movie and how it could be done, and how some folks were agreeing and disagreeing with Lorenzo, and how some were saying that the fans were kind of being silly and that there was some bad writing all around. And I think I'll deal with that in a different video when it regards to Optimus specifically, because I want to do a video on that, because there's been a lot of that recently about how they can do Optimus Prime, and I really want to get into that, probably more than I do with this that I'm going to do tonight. But I kind of want to do it this way, just to kind of start from the ground up. To start with Generation 1, the Transformers started with the Quintessons, right? Or I think it's Quintessons. I don't know, I've heard it pronounced two different ways, but I think it is Quintessons. Then with, of course, the continuity of the aligned of Transformers Prime, the aligned continuity, specifically the Covenant of Primus. Primus is the one who created the Transformers, beginning with the 13 Primes. I kind of envision it this way, to kind of try to get a little bit best of both worlds, because in the movies, the Bayverse, we don't have the 13 Primes. Optimus Prime is not the prophesied 13 Prime. And I kind of don't like that. I don't like how those elements were not united. You know what I mean? I like the idea that he was the descendant of the Primes, that they still had that last Prime idea. But in Transformers Prime, I wish they had dealt with that more too. You don't really see that in the show. That was frustrating. You could read it in the Covenant of Primus, but you don't see it in the show, so there was no continuity that way either. For some of those who have a lot of resources, I would like to know where you're getting your information. I've heard of the Transformers resource. I don't know if what that webpage is, or if there's other resources to have, because I've been having to kind of get all the information that I have off of Transformers Wiki, and that can be kind of dodgy. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Because I like a lot of you follow the Last Prime Speculator, and he gave me a really nice compliment on his last live stream, and I'm really hoping that I can live up to his expectations and to some of those that have started to follow me, because I don't know a lot. I'm having to learn. I'm having to catch up after years and years and years of not following Transformers at all, just kind of going to see movies and saying, yeah, okay, I like that. That was good. And it wasn't until within the last year that fire that I felt as a kid has really kind of come back alive, and I think it's a little bit more intense than it should be. But I gotta hurry. I only have so much time to do a film or a video before YouTube starts to say it's too long. You have to do this and this to actually post a long video. So starting with the Quintessons, we kind of know a little bit about their history already. They're a dodgy race. They built the Transformers, and then they have, according to Wikipedia, connections with Unicron and Primus. They're galaxy-wide traders, entrepreneurs, businessmen. but they don't really deal on the level, right? They're very dicey. They like to use a lot of intrigue and betrayal. They manipulate their deals. They scheme, and they're the ones that made Cybertron. In G1, it was a giant factory. It wasn't a world that was built by Primus for the Transformers to live on. So one of the questions I've always kind of had is, well, who built not the Transformers, but the Quintessons? Where did they come from? I couldn't find anything in regards to that, and they are a pretty ancient race themselves. So, if you know or have any ideas or information, let me know, because I would like to know. Because I couldn't really find anything other than Wikipedia that's just given the basic information. So one of the thoughts that I had, and it kind of ties it in a little bit, I hope, with the Transformers Prime idea of the living metal, is that perhaps the Quintessons had to start with an advanced race. Kind of think of them as like a Kryptonian people, but they may be cybernetic, they could be evil, they could be bad. I haven't really bothered deciding that one way or another, but it's just the general idea of, trying to play God kind of comes back to bite them in the butt, right? But why the Quintessons? Why that technical organic idea of squids? The idea that they were cephalopods from the beginning always kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know how everybody else feels about that, but that's one of the things about some science fiction stories and movies that always just kind of bugged me, that the most intelligent creatures out there in the universe, other than people, are always these weird, freaky monster things, and that just drives me crazy. With the Transformers, it's a little bit different, I guess. They're robots. I mean, we have evidence today that IA is becoming a real thing, so that is more believable for me, I guess. A sentient machine, but an intelligent squid. I'm sorry, but that's just really stupid. But on that note, maybe the reason why the Quintessons were designed the way they were is because, and this is where it gets kind of silly, but we do have different cultures and beliefs here on Earth that can be just as silly. But this intelligent race, these people, they worship a goddess, but she takes the form of a squid. So they have a deep affinity with the sea, specifically cephalopods. So they designed these robotic machines to do, general labor, assisted labs, just whatever they would want them to do. But they designed them to reflect their spiritual beliefs, as well as to fill that niche of labor or whatever. But because they develop a living metal, they find a way to combine in a chemical sense, or even molecularly, DNA with, organic materials with non-organic materials. And that's where that living metal comes from, or at least the idea, specifically for the Quintessons. But the Quintessons, as the experiments continue, as they get better, they show themselves to be intelligent. They develop their own ideas. They gain an intelligence in the sense where they have a self-awareness. But they prove to be, what we already know. They're very, very evil, very, very conniving. And they may end up destroying a great majority of the intelligent race that created them. And that's where the world Quintessa comes from. It originally was the world that this society lived on, but the Quintessons take it over. They virtually destroy it almost. And maybe they keep some portion of the DNA of their creators on hand, so that when they just start to build the Transformers, so they can have that labor force for themselves, So they're kind of perpetuating that idea and that playing God idea. That's kind of where the Transformers start to come in, because that will be that more humanoid form. But then you also have your Beastformers type things, where you have Transformers that can take on animalistic shapes. So maybe the Quintessons are experimenting with DNA in that sense as well. And this isn't being presented the way I wanted to. I wanted to just read it, because I had a lot of information that I had typed up, but it just takes too long to read it. And I can't do a very long video without YouTube, throwing up a warning. But that's just kind of a general idea I had of where the Quintessons could have started, and where they could have started the Transformers. Now, the planet Cybertron and how that fits in. Maybe it was a planet that they cyberformed and then just added to. And they built more Transformers on that world so they could have that labor force. And then, of course, in G1, they didn't just build a labor force with Transformers. They built two different forms. They built the Autobots that were the hard workers, the labor, the builders. Then there were the Decepticons, which were the warriors. In Transformers Prime, and if you've read the books Exodus, Exiles, and Retribution, it was very different. The Autobot and Decepticon forces pretty much started in the council room. But in the comics, I don't remember how it was the Decepticons. I know it was still Megatron. From Kaon, trying to tear apart the foundations of society because, they were angry. Kind of the same idea, in Transformers Prime and Covenant of Primus, but different. The Autobots started with Optimus, when he was Orion Pax, he was mad. He went in to talk to the council, literally fighting his way through, and told them that, other cultures called them Autobots because they were autonomous robotic beings, right? That's where the Autobot thing came in. That's what they used from that moment on. That was kind of where Zeta kind of started getting some of his power, using Orion Pax and the Autobots to enforce the law, but he was also being very tyrannical in it. But kind of like in Transformers Prime, the Autobot and Decepticon idea would not come into play until later. But you still had those two different divisions, the workers and the warriors. And then, like in Generation 1, they start to rebel because of the Quintesson cruelty. But, where does Primus and Unicron come into play on that? And that might be something I have to go on into detail with a different video, because I'm going to be hitting my 14-minute mark in a minute. And there's just a lot to talk about, and there's not a lot of time to do it in. I really would like to eventually be able to do a longer video, but for a while I'm just not going to be able to do that. So, for anybody who really wants to talk about this, and even though it's really kind of probably not what you were expecting, and I do apologize, but I just don't have all that information to really put together a real strong video. It's just a little bit of a not a brainstorm, but just an idea. But I probably will go into detail about how this could probably tie in with Primus and Unicron and how they came into being. Because I think that they could, in a sense, be some of the first Transformers that the Quintessons built, but they'd be huge, right? They're not as big as, say, the Titans, but maybe they become that way because I think there's at least one version of the aligned continuity where it talks about a being called the One, that he was the one that created Unicron and Primus, and then it kind of went on from there. But something like that could happen where he is able to give them life, and then Primus in turn will give the Transformers life. But yeah, I'll go into that a little more detail in the next video. But yeah, for anybody who stops by, thank you. I do appreciate it. And to those who did start to follow me, I appreciate that too. Just please leave a like and comment, questions. and I can do a follow-up video with some of those questions, and then we just kind of continue on from there. And thanks to Last Prime Speculator for trying to for help me to get kind of have ideas to get started. I do have some to like talk about from his latest live stream, but again, I'll have to do that at a different time. So yeah, thanks for stopping in. Let me know what you think, and we'll go from there. Thanks.